Shake thyself from the dust, arise and sit down, O Jerusalem. Loose thyself from the bands of thy neck, O captive daughter of Zion. So this is a marvelous prophecy here. In Isaiah chapter 59, we are told, hear what it says here. Isaiah chapter 59, and I will read there from verse 1, and you will see that when man lost this garment, when he lost this covering of light and glory, it says, behold, the Lord's hand is not shortened, that it cannot save, neither his ear heavy, that it cannot hear. But your iniquities have separated between you and your God, and your sins have hid his face from you, that he will not hear. So now when man lost the garment, when he lost this covering of light, he lost the communion that he had with God. Sin was the culprit, as it were, in that it caused a separation between God and man, and God hid his face from man that he will not hear him. So no human being since the fall of man without that garment was able to see God face to face. Moses was the only one who was able to see and commune with God face to face. And the reason for that is because that garment had to be put on Moses himself for that to happen. And we will touch on that in a little while. It says also in Isaiah, and this is where we got the name for our topic today. In Isaiah chapter 61, you will see in I'll read from verse 7 there, for it says, for your shame. Now notice carefully. This is talking here now about the shame that God's people in the last days would have come to. And for their shame, he will replace their shame when they come to the realization of their nakedness. He will replace that shame. That same shame that Adam and Eve experienced in the beginning. God's people in the last days will come to that realization when they anoint their eyes with the eye salve and see the shame of their nakedness. He says, for your shame ye shall have double, and for confusion they shall rejoice in their portion. Therefore in their land they shall possess the double. Everlasting joy shall be upon them. For I, the Lord, love judgment. I hate robbery. For burnt offering I will direct their work in truth. I will make an everlasting covenant with them, and their seed shall be known among the Gentiles, and their offspring among the people. All that see them shall acknowledge them, and that they are the seed which the Lord hath blessed. I will greatly rejoice in the Lord. My soul shall be joyful in my God, for he hath clothed me with the garment of salvation. He hath covered me with the robe of righteousness, as the bridegroom decketh himself with ornaments, and as a bride adorneth herself with her jewels. So now this is a wonderful prophecy here. And it tells us that these people who will be the seed of the Lord, these people, it says, whose seed shall be among the Gentiles and their offspring among the people. All the people shall see. Now think of it. The people shall see something. What is it they shall see? They shall see them. All that see them shall acknowledge them. So now this is not a question here of simply giving lip service in acknowledging God's people. Something will be seen upon these people, and the nations will be forced to acknowledge the fact that they are indeed the seed which the Lord hath blessed. Now this will be a witness to the world that the world has never seen before. And the Bible calls this thing that the nation will acknowledge, or the Bible calls this thing that will cause the nations to acknowledge God's people. The Bible calls this thing the garments of salvation in verse 10. I will greatly rejoice in the Lord, my soul shall be joyful in my God, for he hath clothed me with the garments of salvation. So one of the things we have to understand here is that this garment, this beautiful garment, which God's people are being called upon even now to put on, is a garment that will be given during probationary time, because it is called the garment of salvation. In other words, that is the garment that God's people will be wearing that will cause the Gentiles to acknowledge God's people as the blessed of the Lord. This is something that will happen during probationary time. It's the garment of salvation. That's a very important point to note there. Ellen White tells us in Signs of the Times, July 29, 1902, she says here, everyone who by faith obeys God's commandments will reach the condition of sinlessness in which Adam lived before his transgression. Adam, when we submit ourselves to Christ, we live his life. This is what it means to be clothed with the garment of his righteousness. So the garment of his righteousness is the same as the garment of salvation. And the garment of salvation is that which everyone who by faith obeys God's commandments will wear. For it says here, everyone who by faith obeys God's commandments will reach the condition of sinlessness in which Adam lived before his transgression. So now how will we reach there? Now if you have to reach where Adam was in the beginning, you have to start somewhere. So we see here that the garment of salvation that we are talking about, it represents a progressive work. It is not something that comes instantaneously. So now we will explore that a little more and see exactly where in our Christian experience this garment of salvation is begins to be put on. You remember the story of the prodigal son. Now, when the prodigal son left his father's home and he went to have a good time in the world and he came to himself, the Bible tells us that when he returned, his father met him halfway and put a robe around him and a ring on his finger. That robe was a symbol of the robe of righteousness that Christ will put upon us eventually when we come to our senses. Here is another one. In 1888 or in 1890, someone asked Ellen White the same question. You know, what is this garment of salvation? And they wanted to know because she says here, several have written me inquiring if the message of justification by faith is the third angel's message, and I have answered, it is the third angel's message in verity. Now, this is what the third angel's message is all about, because we know that the third angel's message brought to view there in Revelation chapter 14 and verse 6, where it says there, he saw this angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach. The gospel message, the third angel's message, is really the message that preaches the restoration of the covering of light in man. You see, it is the giving to man the garment of salvation. It says, the prophet declares, Ellen White continues, after these things I saw an angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. Brightness, glory, and power were connected with the angel's message, and conviction will follow wherever it is preached in demonstration of the Spirit. So now it is demonstration. This is what will bring acknowledgement by the Gentile nations concerning this garment that we are talking about. How, she says, will any of our brethren know when this light shall come to the people of God. Now, how will our brethren know when this light concerning the restoration of the garments that Adam had in the beginning, not when Christ comes, but the restoration of that garment of salvation now, that covering of light now? How will any of our brethren know when this light shall come to the people of God? It says here, as yet we certainly have not seen the light that answers to this description. God has light for his people, and all who accept it will see the sinfulness of remaining in a lukewarm condition. You see, all those who accept that light regarding the garment of salvation will no longer say that they are rich and increased with goods and have need of nothing. They will see their nakedness. They will want to be clothed with this garment of salvation. That's Review and Herald, October 7, 1890.
Follow our studies at Solemn Thought Ministries on YouTube to learn more.